Hello, you are watching Chapter 5 of my TearRing Saga Champions of Utena low turn count playthrough. In this map, we are introduced to the main antagonists of this game for the first time, the cult of Gurxel and their leader, Gwenchaos. True to the standard Fire Emblem cultist mold, that means that we're going to be fighting magical enemies on this map for the first time. I've borrowed the terms protection and resilience from Three Houses already when talking about defensive stats, and that's because, like in Thracia, this game doesn't have a resistance stat. Instead, magical resilience is calculated as half of the user's magic stat, so magical attacks are always going to be stronger than physical attacks of the same strength against both our units and the enemies. This map is also the first indoor map in the game, which means that any of our mounted units that we choose to deploy here will be forced to dismount. This is a pretty big problem for all our mounted units other than Raffen, because most of our mounted units lose the access to lancers when they dismount, and lancers tend to be their stronger weapons. Raffen, however, gets to keep lancers, which means he's one of the few units with strong physical 1-2 range on an indoor map. Our axe users also have this boon, which is why I'm deploying Bartz, who's our axe user with the greatest movement. This being an indoor map also means that Runen is getting the bonuses from his Urbanite skill, so he has 6 movement on this map as opposed to the 5 that we've seen him have so far. The map begins with Gwenchaos killing the sage Eisenbach and then ordering his subordinates to clear out the rest of the temple. This is quite fortunate because we have no way to fight Gwenchaos at this moment. In the preparations, Runen pulled out 2 consumable items, and we see him use the Angelic Potion on himself here. This is going to give him a bit of extra bulk, which is going to come in handy on one later map in particular, which I'll mention when we get there. And we use it here and now because that means he has that extra HP as a buffer in case he gets into risky situations before then. Our units are forced to move up through 2 tight corridors in order to reach the enemy. And because of that, the green units on this map are actually going to be doing most of the combat here. Unfortunately, the green units tend not to make very good decisions. For instance, sometimes on this first turn, instead of killing 2 of the Shadow Lancers, they spread their attacks out and only end up killing 1 and weakening some of the others. And because of that, this map is one of the more unreliable maps that we've had to deal with so far. The green units also have to deal with these scary Shadow Mages, who take 3 to 4 hits to go down, and that is a problem because of the tome that they have equipped. Each of these Shadow Mages has Nosferatu, which, like in Fire Emblem games, heals the user anytime they hit the enemy with it. This is a problem because it means that if the green units attack the Shadow Mages on their turn, unless they immediately finish them off, the Shadow Mage is going to take exactly 0 net damage overall. This was the cause of many resets as I was trying to get this map to clear in the lowest number of turns. There's another green unit on the map who's running down towards us instead of fighting. This is Marouge, and he has a few things in place to keep him alive so we can recruit him. Firstly, generally only one of the enemies will target him, a single Shadow Lancer, and he also has a Miracle Charm in his inventory in order to prevent him from going down from a stray hit. Runen is now moving up to recruit the other recruitable unit on this map. This is Zieg, and he is scarily good. In fact, he's actually better than Raffen in pretty much all ways. First up, Zieg has the Paragon skill, which lets him gain levels far faster than Raffen, and therefore get more stats a lot faster. Secondly, he has a bunch of other skills, including Wrath, which in this game raises the critical rate proportionately to how much damage you have taken, meaning he's even better at using killer weapons than Raffen is. His other skills include Frontiersman, Nihil, which prevents enemy skills from activating against him, and Adept, like Raquel. Another property of Zieg's class is that he too can use Lancers while dismounted. The only thing that he doesn't have over Raffen is the Canto skill, which Zieg doesn't learn until level 14. we're going to have him take the Canto Scroll from Runen and use that to get Canto early, because I need Canto on him for a strat in the very next map, so I don't have time to get him up to level 14. One last thing to note about Zieg is that his class has very generous terrain penalties. Zieg will go unimpeded in things like river shallows and forests, when most of our other non-flying units will be having a great deal of trouble getting over that sort of thing. We're now going to see the boss in action. He has a special tome that deals damage in an area of effect. In this case, his black hole tome deals damage in a plus shape. The tome has 2 to 3 range, with the center tile of the plus being the tile that needs to be reached within that range. And obviously, since it's an area of effect attack, it's also denying us the chance to counterattack him. The trade-off of area of effect attacks like this is that they only get to be used every second turn. This is why the boss didn't join in on the attacking frenzy against the green units on enemy phase 1, because the black hole tome is the only tome that he has with him. He also has an Azoth in his inventory, which is an item that allows him to revive once when he is killed, and he's going to use that to survive this map and come back to haunt us later on. Now that it's our turn, we're going to dogpile the boss. Because his tome can only be used every second turn, he doesn't have it equipped, which means he's not going to counterattack us. However, not having it equipped also means that, like with the staff and tome users that I mentioned earlier, his attack speed is gone all the way up to equal his speed, because he's not being weighed down. And that means that almost none of our units are able to double him, so dogpiling him with single attacks is necessary. Earlier this turn, Ent had talked to Marouge in order to recruit him. If we didn't have Lee, Marouge would be our first mage, and he'd be pretty good because he has passable magic and speed bases, so he's decent at killing things. But we can use him in tandem with Lee to get even better results out of the two of them. Overall, Marouge isn't really all that good, but he does learn some nice skills later on, and we are going to be using him a fair bit because he's a magical attacker, and those are pretty rare for a while. Unfortunately, his personal weapon isn't quite as flashy as some of the other mages who we're going to get later on. Speaking of his personal weapon, let's talk about it. He doesn't have it yet, but his tome, Wundergust, is going to have pretty hefty might, 100 hit, and 20 crit, just like killer weapons, which means he's really good at killing things that he wants to. In a vacuum, I'd say that it's pretty good, but in this game, the other mages also have personal weapons, and those tend to have extra bonus effects in addition to being powerful and generally fairly accurate tomes. So Wundergust ends up paling in comparison. Annoyingly, because the boss is so durable because of his high speed, I didn't have anyone left to finish off this last Shadow Mage, so after Raquel weakened him, I had to cross my fingers that the green units would be able to finish him off. And it was a real butt clencher, because as you can see, the first green mage to attack him actually missed, which led to me thinking that maybe this was going to be just another reset. However, thankfully the other mage manages to pull through to finish off the last enemy and complete Chapter 5 in 3 turns. As a quick note, if you don't talk to Marouge during the map, he will still join you at the end of this map. Once we get out onto the world map, after a cutscene, Marouge receives Wundergust, and then we get into making a few arrangements for the next map. In particular, Zieg is going to take the Killer Lance away from Raffen, because he has an important job that he's going to need it for in the next map. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!